but I am also a volunteer with Samaritan's Purse, specifically Operation Christmas Child. I am the drop-off location coordinator, and we collect the boxes here at Emit Grove, and I see several of my counterparts at other churches around our area that also collect boxes. So, we do have tremendous opportunity in this ministry that we can all serve in some capacity. And on the table in the hallway before we get started, I just want to let you know that there are shoe boxes. If you wanted to grab some, there's also packets there that if you are interested in becoming a year-round volunteer, there is information there. Tricia, our regional manager with Samaritan's Purse, is here tonight also to answer questions, but also on that table out there, there's a bunch of little cards with kids' pictures on them that have received shoe boxes or are going through the discipleship program. And I encourage each of you to take one of those pictures home with you, put it on your refrigerator as a reminder to pray for not only these children, but for this entire ministry, because, we might pack these small shoebox gifts that might be the only gift a child has ever received, that we fill with some fun items, hygiene items, school items, toiletries, stuff like that. But we don't know what God's going to do with that box and how he's going to transform a child's life. So I encourage you to pack a shoe box, but also pray for this ministry. Pray for every child that's going to receive this box so that their hearts are open to receiving God's word and accepting Jesus as their Savior and Lord. And with that, I know you're not here to hear me talk, because I can stay up here all night telling you about this wonderful ministry and the 11 million shoe boxes we collected last year. But I would like at this time to introduce Livia Young to you. And Livia received a shoe box, I don't know how many years ago, but I'm sure she'll tell us. So Livia, and you want a handheld, right? I don't see a number on this one.
Hi, everybody. Oh, great. Everybody can hear me. Can you hear me now? First of all, thank you so much for being here, and Emit Church, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a drop-off location. You guys help us out tremendously. Without you, I don't know where the shoeboxes would go, right? So thank you so much for being a drop-off location. My name is Livia Young. I currently am residing in Newnan, Georgia. My husband and I are a family of 13, actually. I just recounted my family. We have 6 chickens, 2 dogs, 2 cats, and a fish. During the season, as it comes around, it is my joy, my privilege to go out and speak on behalf of Operation Christmas Child, because for me, it's a way to give you back for packing shoe boxes. And I want today for you to experience the experience I had when I received the personal shoebox back in 1999 when I was 12 years old. So I grew up in Romania for the very first 14 years of my life. At the age of 2, my biological mom placed me in an orphanage because she could not afford to take care of me. The only memory I have about my biological mom is that she was extremely poor. She had an apartment provided by the government that had only 1 bedroom and 1 little closet area that just had the toilet. And she didn't even have a bathtub or a shower. She actually had a kiddie pool that's not the American size, maybe 4 times smaller than that she will call herself the bath. And all I can remember is that she kept a chicken in the house for her meal, and being afraid of it, that I thought was gonna eat my feet for some reason. I don't know why. But that's the only memory I have of her before she placed me in the orphanage. And before I go on with sharing my story, I want you to make me a promise. I want you to promise me that you will not feel sorry for me. Please don't feel sorry. I'm very grateful with the way I turned out to be. I'm thankful with the life I had before. But I just want to envision you what my life was like prior to me receiving a shoebox gift, because a lot of children go through the same process I have in one of those countries. So when I was placed in the orphanage, I was 2 years old, lived in one of the best state orphanages at the time for 10 years, till the age of 12. And I remember in the orphanage, our food supply was extremely low. Our hygienic items were really low. The clothing, we couldn't even keep on for more than just a day without having to change. But we did not change every day. But what I want to say is that here in the United States, we are extremely blessed. So blessed. We have so much food. People are always welcome to events like these with food. It's just mind-boggling to me. And it just makes me think of my past, how I did not have that opportunity to eat as much as I wanted to. It just makes me think of how in the orphanage, we would have really low food supply to the point where we would eat only a piece of bread that would be hard and colorful with mold, and you will have that extra crown of peach fuzz on it from fungus. And I will pick up that bread and I will hit it against the metal plates we would eat out of, and I'll tell myself, what would I eat out of this? And I'll never forget the smell of it too, but I just nibbled at what I thought was best. Now, there were times where our food supply was better than usual, and they will give us a slice of bread that had a lot of lard on it, and the workers would tell us, you cannot go out and play until you're done eating. For them, it was just a way of saying that they did their job, but for us, for me personally, I ended up very, very ill, to the point, till this day, I cannot eat waffles, bagels, pancakes, potatoes, anything with butter on top of it, because it just makes me think of my experience I had in the orphanage when I got really, really ill. Now, I can eat a whole pack of Ritz crackers with no problem. But if I'm told that there's butter, it's just a mentality thing where I just have to switch my brain right away and say, no, I cannot eat that. Now, how many of you, I wonder, when you pack your shoe boxes, you may be honest with yourself, you don't have to say out loud, but you may just sigh on the inside like, there goes another toothbrush or another bar soap. Did these kids really want it? Is this really making a difference? Well, in the orphanage, when I lived there, I don't even remember brushing my teeth. And in that orphanage, it was not just 20 or 50 children. It was hundreds of children, aging 2 to 18. And when we had to brush our teeth, we had to share our toothbrushes with all other children in the orphanage. When you pack that bar soap, in the orphanage, I didn't even have my own bar soap. As a matter of fact, when it was bath time, all of us will compete to the bathroom, hoping we could be the very first ones in lines, or at least the very first 5 kids in line, so that we could get the clean water, because all of us will take baths after each other without the water being changed. So I will never forget when this being a competition where I will give up my time of play, my food, anything I would have in my possession, just so that in hopes I can get the clean water. Now, I know Christmas comes around the corner, and probably some of you have already done your Christmas shopping, but in the orphanage, because the season is coming around, we did not celebrate Christmas the way we do here. Here in the United States, we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, but in the orphanage, we only celebrate it by having more food than usual. Now, speaking of birth of Jesus Christ and our religion or our relationship with Jesus Christ that we have here, in Romania, we were very, very kept away from hearing the true gospel. Anytime workers in the orphanage would hear about Christians coming to our orphanage, they would immediately reject them and say, no, 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 we don't want them to do anything with the Christian world. I remember vividly when people from different countries, maybe even the Gideon Bibles, will try to come through the orphanage, and it would not even work out because the workers always pushed them back. So the only way we always knew, I personally always knew to worship God, was by making cross signs across our body and even kneeling down and facing the north direction, thinking we are facing God face to face, and we will recite the Lord's Prayer out loud. And then we will make cross sign again as a closure, and then we will kiss pictures of Jesus being on the cross and quote unquote a Mary picture. But we had no idea who that man was on that cross. So it was just a daily thing. We always did it, but sometimes I question myself, who is that man on that cross? But no one would ever explain it to me. So as long as I lived in the orphanage, I can just summarize it all that there was a lot of hate, a lot of jealousy, a lot of anger, a lot of desperation, children crying constantly for their parents to come and visit them, or because parents promised to come and see them and that would not even happen. A lot of attention needing. So among all of our differences, I can assure you that in that orphanage, even though each and one of us may have hated each other or despised each other, but the thing is that we all had one thing in common, and we just did not know how to express it towards one another. And that one thing that was missing in our lives was the absence of being loved. We really longed to be loved, as it was so raw and so realistic to the point where the only way we could express to the workers that we wanted to be loved and wanted for someone to talk to us was during our nighttime, when we would all go to bed, all the lights would be out, and all that you could see would be bobbleheads going back and forth and we would rock ourselves to sleep until we would just pass out of exhaustion. So when I came to the United States, it took me at least 6 years to break the habit and knowing that I don't have to rock myself to sleep, but doing it for 10 years, it was very hard for me to break it. And so even during exciting moments when somebody will come and visit us, we would only know how to express joy by rocking ourselves back and forth, or even when doing homework. So really, it was really sad to not have anyone loving us, even though the workers were right next to us. And speaking of that, as long as I lived in the orphanage, I had two big dreams. My number one dream was to have my very own set of hair clips. I don't know why. I thought they were the coolest things. We would go to public schools and I would see a girl's head full of hair clips. I was mesmerized by it and I wanted them too. But I could never get them because gifts were not always presented to us, or if gifts were presented to us, it's not like we could keep it to ourselves. It always had to be shared with somebody else. And the second thing I really longed for is that I wanted someone to love me. I wanted someone to share with me what it's like to be hugged, what it's like for someone to hold my hand. And I'm going to use you coming up. But to me, I just really wanted someone to just show affection. The desperation in me in wanting to know that I exist in this world will get to a level where I would do terrible things in front of the workers, like hit a kid or knock a flower vase down to the point where it breaks. And the result would end up where the worker would look at me, frustrated, spanking me, and telling me I'm punished. But to me, the negative result to it did not even faze me. For me, all I wanted was the worker to look me in the eyes. All I wanted the workers to hold my hand, even though the other hand was spanking me. So I just really longed to be loved, but I just could not get that because the workers were just not provided for us. Well, one year, 1999 came. I was 12 years old, and Operation Christmas Child came to our orphanage, and it was a happy, happy day. It was like a ray of sunshine that it was just on top of us. And at the same time, we heard about Americans coming to our orphanage, and anytime we hear about Americans, it's like a big deal. Because we loved Americans. We learned a lot about them. And we knew three major things about Americans. We knew Americans are rich. We knew Americans have lots of candy. And we knew Americans are loving. And we could not wait to meet the people, especially for me, knowing that they are loving, and I wanted to get that. So when we hear news about people anywhere from any city, even if it's in Romania, just coming to visit us really was a big deal for us because that was our only chance of ever interacting with someone else outside the orphanage. And when we heard the news, it is like Black Friday here in the United States. Here in the US, you hear news about people being trampled over, dying, or hurt. And here in the orphanage, we would literally on purpose trip each other, swim in the air, slow motion, think about that. And we would do anything within our powers just to be the very first one at the gate, because if you were first, you were guaranteed for someone to love you and for someone to hold on to you. So as we heard the news, all of us just sprinted. And I remember as I waited, a group of missionaries arrived, and it was about 20 of them. Now remember, there are only hundreds of children and only 20 missionary people. So all of us, because we had that one thing missing in our lives, all of us would literally think alike. And as soon as these people arrived, all of us are thinking, who is going to be my person? So we are pinpointing at each other like, she's going to be mine, she's going to be mine. And so I saw this lady named Connie Satterfield, and I told myself, she's going to be mine. And I watched every step she took off the bus until she entered the gates of the orphanage. Now I'm going to use you. So I see Connie, and you come towards me, and I'm really excited. I can't wait to get a hold of her so I can have her all to myself. As soon as Connie entered the orphanage, I ran to her, and I grabbed her hand. And I did not let go of Connie. I hung on to her like super glue, like really super glue. If she had to go use the bathroom, I will go with her to the bathroom. I will guard her door. When she walks out, I will immediately grab her hand. To me, I didn't even care if she washed her hand. I didn't even think. I didn't even think about that in my mind. I wanted her to make sure that she was mine. And here's the sad part. There were a lot of children who were not being loved or who did not have anyone to love onto. And here I was, the selfish one, who wanted Connie all to myself because I wanted to feel the warmth of another human being by her holding my hand. I wanted Connie to give me all the hugs I could get so that way I can reflect on it in the future when she's gone. Then I wanted Connie to look me in the eyes so I can see a different color of eyes. She had blue eyes, and she had blonde hair. But I wanted her all to myself. And it was really sad because I became obsessive over Connie. I started walking around her, shooing, literally like a bodyguard, just shooing children away. Like, no, go away, this is my person, you go find somebody else. Thank you, Connie. And so, as I had Connie next to me, it was sad at the same time. Connie wanted to love on to others, but I kept tugging her back to me. And Connie, this was her very first time doing missions. She had no idea what it was going to look like. And they saw the shoe boxes there and the team over at the orphanage, and they were able to partner together in helping distribute the shoe boxes. And I remember all hundreds of children were sitting down, and they were starting to pass out the boxes. And before they could even pass out the box, like them stretching out their hand, we will stretch our bodies. Like we're kind of like a competition, quote unquote, in a way, like I'm gonna get to you first. And so as they were passing us the boxes, I remember we would hold on to them for dear life. Like we never received the gift of our own to keep for ourselves. And as we sat down and we would have the shoe boxes, we would sit down and we would hug it really tight, and we would rock ourselves back and forth. And we would give each other dirty looks, thinking, you're not having my box. This is my box. I'm not sharing this with anybody. And we would hold on to them so tight that probably if we would have held on to them all day, we may have poked holes through it. It was just unrealistic to think that I'm going to have a present for myself without having to be shared with anybody else. So as Connie and the team were able to pass out the boxes, they started sharing with us the true greatest news of all. And one of the greatest news, the most memorable one I will ever remember, was the salvation, about God. How they told us about how there's a God who loves us so much that he gave his one and only son for you, each individual one of you. And I'm thinking, for me? So then they talk about how he died on the cross. And I'm picturing everything I've been doing in that orphanage. I'm correlating together. And everything comes together piece by piece. That Jesus was on that cross for me. He was on the cross because he loves me every day. He was on that cross because he wanted me to have life. And the more they talked about it, the more I just absorbed it in and just could not let go. And I was so happy. And of course, that's when hope sparked in my life, and I was just so overwhelmed in a great way. Then they told us all the salvation story through the bracelets, because at the time in 1999, they did not have the greatest gift of all booklets. And I'll never forget when they gave us the black bean, the red bean, the white bean, and they tell us all the meanings behind it. And then they share us the story about volunteers like you. You pack these boxes for us, each and one of us. And I'm thinking at 12, how is that possible? Why would you care enough for me to pack me a shoebox gift? Why are you loving me that much? For me, for someone to love me, I would have to know them personally. I would have to have met them to understand that I am loved by them. And to me, it was just unrealistic to think such people far away across the ocean will love me that much that you decided to pack a shoebox for us, when I have workers next to me who wouldn't give a care in the world for me. And to me, that just really was surprising and just overwhelming again in a great way. Then they start counting to 3, and our joy is like ready to explode. We're like just cannot contain it. The best way I can make you understand it is when you take a 1-liter size Coca-Cola bottle, and then you take 1 large pack of Mentos, and you start putting one at a time in it. And imagine each Mentos a kid, just ready to shoot out with joy. So they counted to 3, and we open our boxes. I mean, imagine hundreds of children just opening the boxes at one time. All you could hear in that orphanage is screaming and laughter. And you could hear the pages of the books being flipped and the packages of toys being opened and the harmonicas and all the musical instruments that kids would receive. And you could hear the kids smacking their candy back then when it was allowed. Us slobbering all over because we were so excited to have something sweet that we would not have every day. And so as I have Connie next to me, she hands me a shoebox. And let me remind you, this shoebox is not even hers. This shoebox she just happens to pick out of the stack. And as I'm sitting down next to Connie, I open my shoebox gift. And at the top above everything else, you will not believe what happened to be. A big packet of hair clips. A big packet. I personally couldn't believe my eyes. Of course, my immediate reaction is, My eyes got big, my heart was beating out of my chest, my fingers started moving super fast, and I'm trying to tear that packet open and try to place every one of them in my hair. And Connie's like, calm down, Livia. Just put one to the right, one to the left, and you will look much better. No, I want all the hair clips in. What are you talking about? I just couldn't believe how in the world for 10 years, wanting hair clips. And because one of you thought about putting something we take for granted, and my dream just literally came true that day. The only sad part about me getting those hair clips was the fact that I had short hair. So I probably looked like a porcupine with all those hair clips in, but I didn't care what I looked like. It felt good to feel the breeze and feel free. It was just amazing. But the only reason all the girls in the orphanage had short hair is because all of us had lice, and it was way not controllable. Girls will literally pull each other to the side 2 by 2, picking their lices out in hopes that by inspection time by the workers, they will not find any. And it was never in their favor. They always had to get their hair cut. And so, as I had all my hair clips in, I'm so excited. I'm looking through my shoebox, and I find a bar soap. And I pick it up, and I do this. And it smelled so good. And it was a Dove brand bar soap. It was white, and it smelled so perfumey. And I told myself, oh my gosh, I don't have to shower I don't have to take baths after so many children anymore. I can just take the bar soap out of the box and rub it dry on my skin. Like dry. I could go to the sink and wash myself. But you know what I did? I said, no, don't open the bar soap. Just enjoy the fragrance. Don't even open it. Give it to Connie if I'll ever see her again. So I never opened the bar soap. I saved it. And I just smelled it all the time. And so then I looked through my shoebox, and I find the final piece I remembered was a best friend's necklace. And it was a heart broken in half. It was one of those cheap ones, but I thought it was the bomb. I mean, it was plastic. It had a yarn on it. It was half pink and half yellow. Across it wrote, I love you. And for me, that was my chance to tell Connie how much I loved her. I wanted to tell her thank you for everything. I wanted to embrace her and make her understand how grateful I was to have her by my side every second. And so I decided, and I told Connie, here, you keep half of the necklace. I will keep the other half. Maybe one day we can put our hearts together. And so as I shared the necklace with Connie, I told her I love in her own language. And you won't believe what happens next. God tells Connie, you are going to be Livia's mother. And tells Connie, Livia is going to be your daughter. I mean, that very second, she didn't come to Romania thinking she's going to adopt. But that day when God spoke to her clearly that she wanted to adopt me, is that she went back to her host family. She got on her knees and just cried her eyes out. Just cried and sobbed and prayed to God that He will make every way possible for me to get adopted. Of course, she then calls her husband and says, honey, I got something to tell you. I knew it, Dad says. I found a girl. Yep. So my dad, till this day, is not even saved. But Connie just begged him and said, for just this one time, can you trust God that He'll provide every way for us to adopt her? And my dad placed his faith in God that that they will make it possible for me to get adopted. So 2 years later, after I received my shoebox gift, Connie comes back to Romania and takes me home. But one thing I want you to understand. All those things in my shoebox, you know what happened to all my things? They got used. I lost all my hair clips. I was very clumsy in the orphanage. I always lost things. But one thing I'll never forget with this shoebox, when I heard the gospel, it was somewhere rooted in my heart. Because the same year that I received my shoebox, I was transferred to a Christian home immediately. Connie made a point immediately to get me out of the orphanage and take me to a better place to be taken care of. And in that Christian home, I found Jesus. And I want us to remember that Operation Christmas Child is not about just the gifts in it. It is an amazing way to get through the doors. It is fantastic to make a child smile. But as I live my life, when I received my shoebox, my life, I like to compare it to a battery. It was 90% full. But when I did not have Jesus, that 10% was missing, and I'm wondering, where was it? And when I found Jesus, it was a joy that was well overwhelming than what the shoebox gift gave me. It was a joy. I wish I had a mega-sized microphone and shout from the top of my lungs and tell everybody I have Jesus. And it was such a pure joy. I mean, I want to tell everybody. I'm sorry, but when you accept Jesus in your heart, how did you feel? I hope you felt like you wanted to tell everybody that you had him in your heart. I hope you were happy and wanting to help and eager to read the Bible, but that's how I felt. And so today, I encourage you to pack one more box, because that means one more gospel opportunity. I like to think that every child longs to be loved, but they don't know the depth of love we are looking for, or the children are looking for, is the fact that, yes, the shoebox may bring them happiness, but they won't be complete until they find Jesus. So pack one more box, because one more gospel opportunity. And thank you so much for having me, and I hope today you go back to your home and families all pumped up and ready to pack shoe boxes and tell everybody about the story. So thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thanks, Livia. Like Cindy mentioned, my name is Trisha Burruff. I serve as the regional manager for Samaritan's Purse in this area. And I gotta tell you, Livia's story is just one of 157 million children who have received shoebox gifts since 1993. And I just wanna say thank you, the way that you partner with us in ministry by collecting boxes, by packing boxes, and by being prayerful in the way that you're doing it. And Lord willing, we're gonna continue to hear more and more stories like Livia's, where people are not only receiving good news, great joy, but they're receiving Christ as Savior, which we know is the ultimate goal of ours at Operation Christmas Child. Real quick, I want to talk about the 3 core values we have at OCC. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't realize that it's not about the shoebox. The shoebox is a means for evangelism, discipleship, and multiplication. So every child who receives a shoebox gift also receives the gospel message. And like in Livia's story, it was a group setting. A trained pastor or missionary got up and gave a gospel presentation similar to what we might do at VBS. And now we have a follow-up program in which children who receive a shoebox also receive a pamphlet called The Greatest Gift. And this pamphlet mirrors the gospel presentation that was given at the shoebox distribution event. So now they have a piece of literature in their hand and their language that they can go home, read through, and be able to share that with their friends and family. And what we're seeing is that one shoebox is really impacting more than just one child. It's impacting an entire family, because they're going home and sharing the content and sharing the message with their family. We also believe in discipleship, which honestly is my favorite part of Operation Christmas Child. We now have a 12-week discipleship program that we call the Greatest Journey. And so children in most countries that receive an Operation Christmas Child shoebox gift now have the opportunity to enroll for free in this 12-week discipleship course. And it's not math class. It's not 2 + 2 = 4. It's my love for Jesus hopefully rubbing off on you so it becomes your love for Jesus. It's the way that I read my Bible that I might teach you so that you might go home and be a person who reads your Bible. It's me teaching you how I evangelize my neighbors so that you might go home and evangelize your neighbors. I personally believe that many of us in this room have benefited from discipleship in our own lives. Someone who's come alongside of us and helped us form some deep roots into our Christian faith. I know for me, I was not raised in a Christian home. I was invited to youth group as a 16-year-old girl. And my parents are not anti-God. They just never found themselves wanting to attend church. And so my youth pastor noticed that I came to every event, and my parents dropped me off at the front door, but never actually came inside. And so he noticed that about me and a handful of other students there, and so he began to disciple us. And Pastor James, he taught me how to pray. He taught me how to read God's word. He taught me how to evangelize, and he helped me grow really deep roots in some of these Christian disciplines. What does it look to spend quiet time with the Lord, and what does it look like to pray when no one's watching? And so even to this day, I sound like James Doddswhite when I pray because he taught me how to pray. And as the Lord would have it, after I graduated from Bible college, I ended up being a student minister, and where I taught groups of young people of how to pray. And there's a bunch of children running around West Chase, Florida, praying like James Doddswhite, and they don't even know him. But it's because I taught them how to pray, and he taught me how to pray. That's what's happening with discipleship. And so for those 12 weeks, students are coming back, their families are coming back to these partner churches we have, and they're being continually evangelized and growing deep roots into their faith. And because of discipleship, we're seeing multiplication. The church is growing, and not just the local church, but the global church is growing. So what we're witnessing is that there will be a church that we partner with in a village. They'll have a distribution. They'll have the Greatest Journey 12-week lessons. People are constantly traveling from one village to their village to be a part of those things. And then over time, people are saying, can we have a church in our village? So now a pastor is training up another pastor to go and plant a church, 20 miles down the road in a different village or a different town. And we're seeing this organic New Testament church planting. And like Livia mentioned, it only happens because people pack shoe boxes. And the glory of the Lord is found within these boxes. And children who receive these boxes are able to experience God in a real, tangible way. We use the Christmas box kind of as a play on words. It's something that we give a child. They didn't earn it. They don't deserve it. And they don't even know who gave it to them. And yet we're able to share a gospel message in which we're able to say, you don't deserve it. You didn't earn it, but yet it was given for you. And we're able to have that conversation with young people around the world. And so, again, like Cindy mentioned, there are some resources in the foyer area. And we have opportunities for you to partner with Samaritan's Purse on a deeper level. We do have an area team that services this area and engaging churches and mobilizing prayer and working through logistics, like how do we get the boxes from A to B. We have roles for different types of ministry, what I call niches. And so if you're interested in learning more about that, you're going to want to pick up one of these registration cards. Go ahead and fill it out. And I'm going to say you can pass it off to Cindy here in the red blouse. And there's also the opportunity to just learn more information about Operation Christmas Child, to get in contact with somebody who currently serves year-round, to ask them some questions. And then we have a really unique opportunity for you to become a Prayer Network partner. And a Prayer Network partner is somebody who prays with us and for us. And so once a month, we send an email, a very detailed prayer request from the field, whether it be international or domestic. So you'll never get a prayer request that says, pray for more boxes. That's a great thing to pray for, and please do. But these types of prayer requests are, our brother Solomon in Zimbabwe has cancer. We're praying for healing. Please join us in prayer. They're very specific to different needs in the field. And so I want to encourage you to go ahead and fill this out and indicate that you want to be a Prayer Network partner. And then again, you'll go ahead and pass it off to Cindy. And so it's really been a joy to be here tonight. Thanks for allowing Livia some time to share. And I hope that your heart's inspired. And I hope that the Lord has stirred the affections of your heart for evangelism, discipleship, and multiplication, even right here in Statesboro. Like, God is calling us to do those three things here as well, not just abroad. And so with that, I'm going to ask Pastor to come back up and close us in prayer.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you so much for your testimony, Livia. That was great. Livia, I'll drop the O. So anyway, I was a little concerned. Excited to have Romania, but I've heard some Romanian names, but Livia Young, that's about as simple as that can be and stuff. So thank you so much for that. I'm going to ask our instrumentalists to come forward this time. We're going to have an invitation. And one of the things that Emit Baptist Church is committed to is prayer. And Joel, as you come, as we come to this moment of the invitation, if God is leading you to come and pray, if you haven't heard something to pray about tonight, we'll do a rerun for you. But God's Spirit moved in a great way. And think of how God works. And one thing that we do know is that God is activated by prayer. Are you satisfied with your prayer life? If God is leading you tonight, would you come to altar and pray? That's movement, church, or rededication, whatever God is leading. If God is moving, won't you let Him have His way? Let's all stand for the time of the invitation. If God's Spirit